And we're live in the Carne Asada, as it says literally right there, live in the Carne Asada. It's your boys Alonso y Juan with the babyface gimmick in the sky, Roger, and also Alicia Del Valle. We're joining you live ahead of the series with the New York Metropolitans. Real quick, this episode of the Bleed Los podcast is presented by our friends at Bet Online. They are and continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest odds, news, sports developments, including this year's basketball championship finals. That's the NBA, NHL, hockey conference finals, Major League Baseball, obviously, and the latest fighting news and even next season's early futures. Super easy to join. Head to their website, which is down here on the little ticker thing where my name is. It's betonline.ag from your phone, computer, wherever you're at. And if you join, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit if you use our promo code BLEAV. BLEAV. Do it. Go get on it. Bet online where the game starts. Huge shout out to them. So let's start with the good one before we get to your favorite segment, the bad. The Dodgers swept the Arizona Diamondbacks. Decidedly, I think, aside from that game on Saturday, it was a pretty one-sided series. And they went into Phoenix and did the damn thing. What was your takeaway from that?
My takeaway is that the Dodgers have beaten the Diamondbacks now 8 games in a row. And that is very difficult, as we are going to discuss later on when we discuss the bad. I mean, every there's that saying there, every team has every dog has its day, every once in a while. So to win 8 games in a row, not just 8 games in a row, but 2 4-game series, you have to give them credit. Now, I know that's probably, aside from that, the only other positive thing that we could probably talk about is how Mookie Betts is just completely on a tear.
Yeah.
We could also talk about the Catman, how the Catman all of a sudden just started pitching as like a Cy Young Award winner. And I have to give credit to the man who deserves this, because he sacrificed himself to save the Catman. And that's our own producer, Babyface. Because if Babyface wouldn't have gone through on this, does he want to be a man or a cat, challenge Gonsolin the way he did? I don't know if Tony Gonsolin would be pitching as well as he's pitching right now.
Thank you for recognizing that, Juan.
I appreciate everything that you do, Babyface. You really are a Dodger fan. You are a true Dodger fan.
I mean, the upside is Tony Gonsolin clearly listened to the show. So, I mean, that's a win. I mean, I'll take that. That could be a complete lie, and I'm lying to myself, but I just want to give up props where props are due, because Roger did do that. Alicia, what was your takeaway from that D-back series?
Well, when we were discussing our predictions, I said, the Dodgers are going to do what they're supposed to do. And I was half right with Arizona. Again, Mookie on a tear. Our first 3 at-batters are just doing what they do so well. Again, Trey Turner, underrated. I'm seeing he's getting a little more love. Obviously, they were listening to our show as well. I still think, it would have been nice to get at least one from that next series, but we can talk about that next. Babyface, are you going to jump in on Alonso?
And real quick, before we forget, the Catman is, guess when his next start is, Roger?
Tonight, right?
Yeah. So if this is what I'm curious of, if he doesn't have a good outing, are you gonna automatically disown the cat?
Well, that's what I'm scared of. I mean, we got Catman, and we have Anderson both going in this series against the Mets. So they've been pitching like lights out, and kind of something is kind of like lurking, like one of these guys is probably not going to have a good start, or maybe both. That's what I'm scared of in this series coming up, but we'll get to that later.
Fair. As we look ahead past the D-backs, Juan's favorite segment's incoming, so let's get ready for the pain. They got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates. If there's one upside to this Pittsburgh Pirates series, they don't have to play the Pittsburgh Pirates again until 2023, at least in the regular season, assuming they don't have to make the postseason.
Unless the Pirates win the East.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Unless they make the postseason, they won't face them again.
And they are.
I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah.
Hey, you guys forget they could make it as a wild card.
It's true.
What happened to the Nationals the year that they beat us? They had a very slow start, and then they went on a tear for around this time. It started around this time, and they went on a tear for the rest of the year, and they made it to the playoffs in a wild card. And then what happened? We got beat by 2 pitchers, Scherzer and Strasburg. Now, the Pittsburgh Pirates don't have pitchers like Scherzer and Strasburg, but don't tell the Dodgers that, because they had pitchers in this series that were pitching very well.
No, 100%. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Pirates are still a Major League Baseball team. So it doesn't change. I mean, there isn't any expectations there, right? I mean, hell, they just DFA'd Cole Tucker. I mean, that guy was supposed to be the lightning in a bottle for them however long ago, and now he's been DFA'd. So, they're out there, I assume, playing like, hey, they don't have to worry about anything. So they're having fun, right? Let's be 100% honest, though. They played the Dodgers hard that entire series.
Yeah.
Hey, so, before you go there, Alonso, let's get a quick Vanessa Hudgens update from Babyface, because I know he wanted to drop that. Do we know how Vanessa is taking the Cole Tucker news?
I do not, but I know she's probably happy that they get to spend a little bit more time. And I'm assuming they're probably both out here in LA. So
probably happy.
They were probably at the game last couple of days. So,
and there you have it. Our entertainment report. Thanks to Babyface. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Sources close to the situation that are sources say that they may probably be okay. That's from Babyface himself. At the end of the day, dude, I mean, yesterday's loss, but I mean, they played the Dodgers hard, bro. But at the end of the day, like, you can't even hang your head about it, because the Dodgers were just trying to do whatever they could. And let's just be frank, they were simply outplayed. That's no knock even on the Dodgers, because even the Dodgers themselves said that. They basically got outplayed.
Well, Alicia had a theory. Alicia, share your theory that you told me.
Well, my theory is what I've said before. I believe how teams get up for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers don't get up for teams that are less than average. I mean, did the Pirates, they're still not at 500, right? What are they, like 18 and
they
27?
are 22 and 27.
22. Oh, the 22 because they beat the Dodgers.
Wow, look at her laugh at the Dodgers. No, I wasn't talking about that theory, Alicia. I was talking about the other one that you had said about how you think they're tired.
They're tired. That was a brutal and a long road trip, and they did well. Let's give props where props are deserved. They won all of the series. They did what they were supposed to do. And so I'm sorry, it wasn't like the Mets came in first, because you can even tell by the way the media and the local sports guys, they're already looking towards the Mets coming in and not paying attention to Pittsburgh. Not really, even though the Dodgers lost to them as well in Pittsburgh. So I'm just saying, you add up being super tired, a long series, and they have to go straight to playing a team that is going to get up and make their whole season to beat the Dodgers, right? So,
well, and I mean,
it'll be all right.
Again, it's a long road trip. They started the season late. That's going to catch up to you. They had the one rain out, right? And then that ended up adding a day of games. And then you throw travel in there. Of course they're tired. But, I mean, you're human. You're tired. Is Freddie Freeman a machine? Sure. But you can only be a machine for so long.
Babyface, what was the final number? They played 30. They're playing 31 games in 30 days.
30 days.
30.
Yeah.
Right? Because Monday is their next off day. So it has to it has to factor in. I don't think that you can sit there and say that is the reason why they got swept, because I think Alonso hit it on the head. You have to give credit. The Pirates defensively were making plays that the Dodgers were not making. I mean, Hayes was great at third base. To me, the one I'm still scratching my head about was yesterday was when he got thrown out at the plate. Why did they send him home? That ball was not hit deep into center field. Reynolds had a pretty short throw to make. And then I got to ask you guys this. Was that not blocking the plate? I thought you couldn't do that anymore.
I thought it was blocking, but I don't even think you could challenge it as the problem.
No, because they had already used their challenge before on a play that I don't know why they were. To me, they challenged that out of desperation.
Oh, 100%.
They were trying to do something to spark the team, but and we can get into challenges later. But to me, I was like, Wait, he clearly had the ball. Don't you have to give? Isn't the new rule says you have to give the runner a path to the plate?
Yeah, no, you have to have a clear. If I'm not mistaken, I think the word verbiage is the clear path to the plate. So, in my opinion, that was a block. But I mean, again, they were trying to make something happen, like you said, with that challenge, and here we are. They got swept, and I mean, they just got simply outplayed, man. And I mean, granted, some of the plays didn't go their way, but either way, it was out of desperation, like you said, Juan.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was that other play where Kevin Pillar hit a ball that went like 108 miles per hour. It went off of the shortstop's glove, and it went to the second baseman. Now, granted, Pillar had stopped running because he thought the ball was going into the outfield, and he ended up getting thrown out at first base. Now, people sit there and go, well, what's the big deal about that, Juan? That happens. Well, the next hitter hit a home run, and the Dodgers lost that game by 1 run. Yeah. So it's just little things like that where it seems the whole series against the Pirates, things went wrong for the Dodgers, and they went right for the Pirates. And guess what? That stuff happens. It's baseball.
Plus, the Pirates hit about 10 home runs, and I can't name one of them. One of the guys that hit them.
Well, you're the one that tells me it's the dead ball. Why is it a dead ball? And yet everyone on the Pirate, everybody, like, remember when the Phillies came? The bottom line is as long as we don't play anyone from Pennsylvania, I feel pretty confident.
So.
But we lost the season series to the Phillies of Philadelphia, and we lost the season series to the Pirates of Pittsburgh. Pennsylvania is no friend to California.
Blacklisted. Canceled.
Can I really quickly, I want to say hello to our viewers that are joining us because we're trying to, establish this live. Thank you to David Fernandez, who sounds like he wants to be part of the show. It was the right call to send him home. The problem was Lux looked back at the ball and kind of hesitated. Thank you for your take, David.
David, I have to give you credit for that. You are right. Lux was looking at him the whole time he was running to home plate. To me, that ball wasn't hit deep enough to send Lux, but you do have I want to give you credit for that point. Lux was looking at him, and I think that might have slowed him down. And
to all you that are joining us on the live, chime in. We want to hear from you. If just like David just did, or even about the Mets, or about Walker Buehler, about whatever, chime in. And the reason I bring up Walker Buehler, poor Walker Buehler, just getting grilled. I mean, the poor glove, he tossed that thing like it was a heater too. That just cannot catch a break no matter what he does. But again, to me, it's one of those things too where sometimes that's just baseball. It is what it is, right? We all know how good Walker is. I don't even think it's just one of those funks, right? It is what it is. But it's just, as Juan jokingly said last night in our group text, it's dark times.
Well, not only that, and I'm gonna since it's dark times, I want to throw this over to Princess Del Valle because she's the one that it brings us hope. But here's to me, it seems, especially if you follow Dodger fans on Twitter, every time the Dodgers lose a game, we have to find somebody that we can point the finger at, 100%. And we have to burn them at the stake. I mean, it is like the Salem witch hunt around here. I mean, I saw stuff like we need to send Walker Buehler down.
Yes.
Julio Urias is horrible. Right. I saw stuff like, it seems like every week we have to find somebody that we can say, he's the reason why the Dodgers lost and we need to get him out of there. I get it. Craig Kimbrell has not been pitching well his last few appearances. How much does that have to play with the fact that he is not being used regularly? Has that caught up with him? I mean, look, Kimbrell and Kenley Jansen blew a save on the same night. So spare me when everybody starts saying bring back Jansen. It's just like, look, these things happen. Baseball, it's a long season. But Alicia, were you not seeing the same thing where everybody was just like destroying Walker Buehler and destroying Julio?
Okay, so yes. And I love that you pointed out some of the more valid reasons that maybe Kimbrell hasn't delivered what he was brought here to do. However, the amount of panic, the amount of fans that are ready to just, jump off a bridge, it's like, it is May. We just ended May, rather. The rest of the team, aside from this Pirate series, I mean, we just came off that long road trip we just talked about, but no, how quickly we forget, right? Maybe this is a good segment. We should call it Dark Days. I was at the game 2 nights ago, and yes, we lost. It was Urias's bobblehead night. He did not have a good start. In fact, I felt like all of the games started really bad, right? We were in a hole right away. But the fact that it was his night and there were so many Mexicanos and Chicanos and Latinos excited, they drank harder because it was like going downhill faster. And I heard things about Urias and, you know, he needs more chilaquiles and he's too skinny. And then they were going off on Walker Bueller's pants being too tight and he should have never have gotten married. And why is he throwing tantrums now? I mean, I was just listening to the fans, like, to our own players.
Well, you know, it's so funny you mentioned the Walker Bueller thing. If Walker Bueller doesn't do that, throw his glove or throw a tantrum, fans will say he doesn't care.
Yep.
Walker, he doesn't care about. So now when he does do that, I mean, yeah, okay, he didn't beat up a water cooler the way good old Pascual Perez did back in the day. But I mean, it's just, look, I mean, do you guys like baseball? Do you like watching baseball? I mean, I get it, dude. It sucks. They lost 3 games to the Pirates. I get that a lot of people think they shouldn't be losing 3 games to the Pirates. But like Alonso said, that's a Major League Baseball team out there. I told Babyface this. So what? The Pirates are supposed to lay down for us because they're the Dodgers?
Yeah.
No, the Pirates are going to go out there and play just as hard. Now, look, I'm not going to question the Dodgers' effort. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, you know, the Dodgers just weren't trying, because those guys are professional athletes. They were trying. Things just didn't go their way. And it happens. I mean, that's the way it is. But this whole mentality of we just got to, you know, these guys suck, send them down. When, let me remind everyone, the Dodgers are still in first place.
Yep.
Yes.
And they have a 3-game lead. It's not a 1-game lead. It's not a half. They have a 3-game lead. If I would have not known anything about baseball and just looked at Twitter, I would have thought that on June 1st, the Dodgers were eliminated from playoff contention in 2022. And guess what? That sucks. That absolutely sucks. That June 1st, my team is already eliminated. Like I'm the Colorado Rockies or something.
How many times have we said on this show that Dodger fans are spoiled? How many times?
Yep.
And when it comes to the skies falling stuff, we have. I mean, I've even nitpicked. I'm guilty of it. But at the end of the day, if that's all you can do is nitpick, I'm cool with that. That means you're good. Like, you know, like it's one thing. Like, obviously, different sport. The Lakers, right? All that criticism, I feel like, was completely fair because that roster should have done more. And obviously, they didn't even make the postseason, right? So that's fair. This Dodgers team is on pace to win over 100 games.
Yes.
They're obviously going to make it to the postseason. They're a favorite to win the World Series championship. There's a lot of guys hurt. You know, unfortunately today, mentioning Kevin Pillar has a fractured shoulder. So, I mean, you know, that big ups to Kevin Pillar. Get better soon, man. But especially
before we go away from Pillar, I think Babyface has a theory as to what happened to Pillar, right, Babyface?
What is the theory?
Do you want to share the theory?
Theory on how he got hurt,
or why he got hurt? Why did he get hurt?
Oh, sometimes there's like a jinx when they go on certain shows.
And, like who? Like whose show?
Like whose show?
I don't know. The only show I saw him on was Vafe's show, so I don't know. Yeah,
and Edwin Rios came on our show and he hit a home run. So that's all we're saying.
Yeah, Edwin Rios came on and he had like a couple home runs over the last couple of days. So.
My apologies, Alonso. I totally derailed the show just to give him his moment. So.
And that moment was a crash. It was a phenomenal car accident. We have to exchange insurance information now. And also, by the way, for Kevin Pillar going on to the IL, Zach McKinstry was called back up from Oklahoma City. Speedy recovery to Kevin Pillar, because that absolutely sucks. Because he was so stoked to be up here with this club. He talked about it, grew up in LA, all that stuff, and just fractured his shoulder. That absolutely sucks. But I mean, either way, if we have to nitpick, like I'm cool with nitpicking, But at the same time, like, don't sit here and say that they don't care, that whatever, right? That they're playing lackadaisical, because at the end of the day, this team is still stacked. I mean, Alicia said it at the top of the show. The top, I mean, Edwin Rios even said it. That top of the lineup is preposterous. And if as long as they're doing what they need to do, and then they also have currently who I think is the best player in baseball right now, Mookie Betts. So it's, I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to figure it out. Like as Juana said, I've said it, Alicia said it, they're professionals. So
no pasa nada. No pasa nada.
No. I mean, unfortunately, algo le pasó a Kevin Pillar, but I mean, that's one of those, you can't control that, right? But either way,
injuries will break your heart.
Yes.
Can I just say that maybe my theory is people are so heartbroken. They love the Dodgers so much. You know, we go to games, we listen and watch daily. It's a long season, and not just for the players, for the fans as well. So maybe they just want to commiserate with one another, and hopefully they just blow off steam and they don't really mean the mean things they're saying.
No, I mean, it could,
like Pollyanna, Paula Abdul. Like
you are the Paula Abdul of this show, though. If we're being completely transparent, you are the hopeful. What did you call her? One, the hopeful what?
She brings hope to the show. She's
well,
she's like Princess Leia. You know, she's in an R2 unit, bringing us hope.
I thought Roger was the hopeful one here, though.
Well, that's what Alicia says. I mean, I beg to differ with that. But look, we need hope because tonight we start a 4-game set against the New York Metropolitans, and that has me really, really nervous. I mean, to have the Mets come into town, and all right, you guys hear that, right? It sounds like somebody opened the gate. This is why you have to watch the Carne Asada live, because you never know who's going to stop by.
What a shitty subwoofer, by the way.
Let me check the door. Hold on.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Señoras and señores, look who is joining us here on the Carne Asada. This is why you have to watch the show, because you never know who's going to show up. Joining us, the host of Unfiltered with Casey Stern and a Mets fan, Casey Stern. Casey, thanks for coming on the show.
At least you started out with the good part before you said I was a Mets fan. By the way, I'll also add into my bio, I used to hand out a lot of Carne Asada as out by your way as a waiter for a couple of years at Marrick's Tex-Mex out there on PCH. So if that still exists, hi to all 4 people who remember me with chicken fajitas. So hi everyone. Good to be here.
We're definitely going to get into that, and I just want to let people know that Casey will only play basketball in the 7 feet and under league.
Yes.
So for all you. For all you 6 feet and under guys, Casey is above your level. Okay.
Yeah. I only play hoops by myself. Well, that's why I only play by myself, because when you miss shots, then you get to like grab a back or a hamstring when you're in your 40s and like look and see if the neighbor's noticing you, because that's the only reason you miss. You don't have to worry about cardio.
Do you pad your stats? Is that what it is? You're a rebound guy? Is that what you're going?
I always make sure that the one shot I make is the last one I take, and then I just drop the mic, walk off stage. Yeah.
All right, Casey. I because the Mets are the Metropolitans, we have to get into it. So, first of all, what made you a Metropolitan fan, and how long have you been a Metropolitan fan?
Idiocy and literally clear idiocy since I'm 5, probably. So my whole family are Yankee fans, except for me.
Okay.
I was named after Casey Stengel. To make a long story short, my grandfather, who was sick at the time, they weren't sure what to name me. They handed me over to him, and I tried to jump out of his arms, and he said I was rambunctious like Casey Stengel, but not the Mets manager, like Joe Torre, the Mets manager, for example. We're talking about the Yankees. So as a kid, I think it was a combination of my parents, because I lived on Long Island, didn't want to drive and take the train all the way to the Bronx, so it was easier to get to. And I wanted to rebel and root for the underdog. And I really wish I can go back and channel back in time and change that decision because of the therapy it's cost me over the last 40 years.
Wow, you really do sound like a Mets fan. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Because you're from Long Island, It really is about geography, right? If you're from a certain part of town, you are going to be destined to be a Mets fan, right? Another part of town, you're destined to be a Yankees fan. That's how it works right there in New York, right?
Yes. And normally Mets fans, so it's like an Ets thing because normally Mets fans are Jets fans because they practice on Long Island, even though they and the Giants are both in Jersey. I wasn't that dumb, luckily. So on the spectrum of dumb, I only fit in the Mets category. But I've never left them. I mean, look, it's one of these things where if you're a fan of a team like the Yankees, they win all the time. There's no joy in that because it's like being a coach of a great team. Like Phil Jackson, he didn't do anything right with the Bulls, right? Like you don't get coach of the year when you have a great Dave Roberts. I love Doc, right? You're not going to get credit. You're only going to get like a field goal kicker. We'll only talk to you when you make a mistake. Yankee fans are getting yelled at all the time because you buy everyone. As a Met fan, everyone sympathizes and makes fun of you. So there's nowhere to go but up. It actually makes it easier that way. And because group therapy is so important, I feel like being in a stadium, there's nothing like being like in the stalls of like a seventh inning of a Met game that they're going to collapse and listening to just what people are saying and how it's going to happen. But this year, maybe not this year.
All right, that leads me in. My producer and I have differing opinions on this, okay? So I'm very curious to hear your answer on this. I think the Metropolitans are for real. Okay, my producer Babyface isn't completely convinced, so I hear it from the source. Okay, the fan is the one who's going to tell me the truth. Are the Mets for real?
First of all, no fans will tell you. Let me tell you something. Many years ago, I covered the Red Sox, and I was there covering them daily in their 2004 run that they made. And I could tell you, being there when Johnny Damon hit the grand slam to make it 10-3, it was over. Like they're about to win the court for. I mean, it's goodbye, right? You're not allowed to speak. Like, don't talk. Like, you can't high five. So, but I think because of the Buck Showalter aspect of it, it's different. And there's a lot to that. I mean, I've covered the game 20 years, and there are a lot of overrated things about coaches and managers. But the biggest part that's not, and it's kind of not hard to understand, it's a long season. You want somebody who kind of gets you as an athlete, right? Leo Mazzoni said to me many years ago, biggest thing about coaching in the big leagues, know where to blow smoke and when to light fire, right? When you get coaches who scream all the time, wear out their welcome, right? When you get guys who don't get credibility, the player's thinking what you and I are thinking. Why are you the hitting coach who had 4 home runs in your career telling me who just drove in 120 what to do? Buck Showalter, even though he hasn't won a World Series, has the street cred. And after the Mickey Callaway scenario and all the Mets disasters of the last number of years, I feel like he's kind of settled that. We talk about the ownership, right? But Max Scherzer, right? Of course, the money's a huge reason. But Buck Showalter was mentioned often as a reason. And if you look at the way he's handled things, even with the injuries, Buck's got a weird sense of humor, kind of like plays it off, but he takes and buffers away from the players. So, and in New York and in LA, you know this. I mean, and more for the Lakers for me than the Dodgers living there, but you need some of that. You need some of that levity. So I really think that one of the reasons I believe that it's different is because Buck's brought a different aura than they've had in forever, really, in a long time.
Alicia, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the key phrase for me is it's a long season. And I do love, if I had to rank the New York teams, I mean, I feel like the Rangers are getting more love than anybody right now in New York, but the Mets have become the darlings. So congratulations.
You're welcome, man. Be careful because I'm an Islander fan, so I thought we were going to be friends. This is not going to go well. Go ahead.
But all I hear about is Rangers and the Mets have now become a thing,
Yes.
There's an East Coast bias. I'm not going to argue with it.
There is, of course.
Right? Okay.
It's because of money. It's not and because of time, right? It's not.
The bedtime.
Reality.
The bedtime.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, it is kind of frustrating when the Dodgers are doing what they're doing with this magical season. Mookie Betts doing Mookie things. Freddie Freeman, again, I could go on and on how stacked the Dodgers are. To get a blurb on nightly news or even morning sports news, it's like an afterthought. Mets haven't won anything yet, and I'm excited for you guys. I am, because I like Mets fans way more than I like Yankee fans.
It sounds like you tell me. It sounds like I'm being backhanded, complimented, and placated. I'm really bad with this stuff, but I'm just saying It's like
Okay,
so
no,
I've lived in the
really,
South. Let me just give you an
truly-
idea, Alicia. So I'm from New York, so you could be straight with me. I moved in the South a few years ago, and it took me about 5 minutes to realize that blessed means you're an idiot, and I just don't want to say it to you. Go ahead.
Blessed heart. Yeah. Oh, bless your
I
heart.
mean, really, if they just tell me I'm an idiot, I can understand that. Actually,
No,
It's fine.
no.
Yeah. No, it's
This is actually probably me being the diehard, like very loyal Dodgers fans, and also working in an industry where you see the bias, and it's a little frustrating. So for the Mets to come along, and all of a sudden, it's like the second coming, and I'm like, and again, I'm excited for you. I'm going to put it
Bless
on
it.
paper that I am a bigger fan of Mets fans than Yankees fans. I've been to games in all the stadiums. And what was it, that 7 train?
Yep.
I just found out
That's
today
the
that
one.
was the number.
Oh, yeah. That's the one.
I love that experience, seeing the Dodgers play there. And so again, I'm not berating.
No, I don't think you are. I don't think you. Can I sell you on part of why that happens though? Right? It goes back to what did I say about like coaches? Like no. Give you an example, right? And I'll use West Coast as an example. Okay. 2010, Bud Black was the coach of the year. The Padres were in first place for most of the season. Okay. They played the Giants 6 times in the last 2 weeks. The Giants win the division, and then they go knock off the Phillies and surprise them and win the World Series, the first of 3 that they won. But in the season, because the Padres weren't supposed to do anything, Bud Black got the credit. Everybody gets bored with what they're used to seeing. It's like waiting at Cinderella's castle for that stupid thing that happens at 9 o'clock at night. It's like, what am I doing here? Right? At Disney all the time, right? Because you know it. I think you wait until the playoffs for the Dodgers nationally because look at the team you have. I mean, you should win the World Series. That's what sucks. Going back to what I was saying, that's being a Yankee fan. Like, I don't care from where I stand, but the one thing I will always apologize for them, Yankee fans have to apologize for themselves all the time. Like they have to explain why it's okay they're fans because they spend all the money and they have all the players. I think that you're being treated like the Yankees. Is that fair? I mean,
absolutely.
Right? Are being punished for being as great.
You're being punished for being as great as you are.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I can live with that.
See what we did there?
Well, here's the thing that scares me though about the Mets, and you tell me. You have Scherzer and DeGrom are down right now, but I feel that the Mets probably have the farm system where they can make a trade to get a starter down the line. The Dodgers are going to have to compete with the Mets to try to get pitching. And the way you guys are playing, I mean, you guys are running away with the division right now. Yeah. I mean, that's what scares me.
And that's the big, honestly, that's the biggest key because when you got a 9 or whatever it is, 8.5, 9-game lead already, it allows you to coast until those 2 guys are healthy. End of the day, and I'm not to bring up a bad memory, but in covering it, 2 players, Juan Soto is amazing, and he had a couple of big home runs, but Scherzer and Strasburg knocked you out in a 5-game series and beat you in your yard, right, in game 5. Okay? Yeah. One came out of the bullpen, 1 start, 2 pitchers. Okay? That's how it goes. 2 pitchers beat the Astros, Scherzer and Strasburg, right, winning those 4 games. If you're the Mets, that's the way you look at it. July 15, August 1, who cares? Whatever's long enough, right? But not too long to get those 2 guys ready. Because if I tell you we're in a series, do you care who's in my lineup, really? If I tell you it's DeGrom and Scherzer, because in a 5 games or a 7-game set, you're in a lot of trouble. I think for the Mets, we can't answer their questions. The Dodgers are a better team. They're more deep. They've got more options, right? And different things to work with. The Mets are going to come down to what you just said because they've got a lineup that has some speed. They can hit for sure. Alonso, and I love Pete Alonso. He's tough not to like as a human, right?
Yeah.
But it's coming down to those 2 guys. If those 2 guys are healthy, the whole league better be careful, right? If they're not healthy, the Mets aren't going to win. I mean, I hate to say for all the openers and all the BS we talk about with this sport, starting pitching in the postseason is still what it's about. It still comes down to what Urias did, right? And to have a guy like when he came out of the bullpen doing it for those 3 innings, the Walker Buehler starts, right? At the end of the day, it's still like it was when we were starting pitching. It's going to come down to those 2 guys and their health for sure.
So are those injuries to DeGrom and Scherzer, are they concerning, or do you think there's enough time in the season for them to get over that?
I'm a Met fan. When they have a hangnail, I get concerned. Their cuticle is in trouble. I'm in trouble. Like when you're a Met fan, you literally, it's like in the movie Groundhog Day when he walks into the puddles and says it's a doozy. That's every day. Like when Max Scherzer got hurt, I was surprised it took so long. Like for what, you know what I mean? It's like, that's what it's like. I mean, unfortunately, but I think, you know, the other part of it is in the past, the Mets, everything's from top down, right? Like look at the Dodgers, right? When Stan came in that group and the amount of they had like 8 GMs like in the room, right?
Right.
And they get Doc. It's all top down with any company. Steve Cohen it's been a different scenario. They act differently. Like they don't do Met things. There's no sex toys. Mr. Met's not giving the finger. Like, you know, the manager doesn't come out and apologize 8 times because the first 7 were wrong on Twitter. Like it's a different scenario. So I'm trusting, right, that they will handle the injuries the right way. Because end of the day, you guys know this as well as I do. You could say like timetables. I only care about the timetable that doesn't have you coming back too soon, because that's when it's no good. So that's where the lead helps for sure.
Go ahead, Alicia.
I'm just the injury talk. You're making me nervous.
Well, I'm not trying to. You should, you know, at least you're getting attention. I mean, the Dodgers, no one talks about them. Really, I feel terrible for you.
Well, again, my bias is not like I think they should be, but again, I come from a biased place.
That's okay.
So every morning I read up, you know, blah, 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 like all of us. And MLB has started their polling for for MVP players.
Okay.
And in the National League, Mookie Betts is number 1 with the most first place votes. No surprise there. Again, he had an exceptional May, and it's a long season. But your guy is in there, Pete Alonso. So I was going to ask you about him, but before you went on pitching, now I feel like, I don't know, like you should probably say some nice things about Pete Alonso while you have a chance, because all you care about is pitching.
Well, pitching is what wins. At the end of the day, hey, look, it's like you can't win in the NFL if you can't stop somebody from scoring eventually, right? Right. In the NBA, Mike D'Antoni is still going to get 8 more jobs while we're all alive, God bless, where he's going to try and prove you can only hit threes. Like it doesn't work that you got to pitch, regardless of your hitting. But the thing about Alonso that I love is that he's always had his power is ungodly. It's massive, right?
Super impressive.
But he's gotten better defensively. He's gotten better as a hitter, and he cares. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, you can't manufacture good character people. Mookie Betts, example, in a World Series, walked outside after a game 2 and fed homeless people who were outside Fenway Park. Wasn't looking for attention. Nobody even knew he got caught. That's a dude, right? That's a real guy. Pete Alonso, when he's crying on first base when he broke the record, and he's making for 9/11. He had asked before the season everyone's shoe size. This was 2 years ago. Nobody knew why. He had specially made shoes for 9/11 for everyone on the team. Like, he's like a good dude, so I root for him. But he's worked so hard to become a better player. And I think the biggest thing, last thing, is nobody can do it on their own. The Dodgers have had a lot of lineups where they haven't been able to trust more than now. You have depth all across the board, but I'll use the Padres. How many years of the Padres? It was like Adrian Gonzalez and like a bunch of other people. Paul Goldschmidt on Arizona. How many years? And then a bunch of other guys, right? Alonso's got Lindor playing better, right? Starling Marte has been a huge addition for them. McNeil is acting like the all-star player he was a couple of years ago. So I think it's like anything else. It's pressure. I know this, being somebody who's hosted alone. And you have a co-host who showed up late, so we'll dock him, some pay. But, when you're sitting there by yourself, right, it's different. It's like anything else. I think the pressure's off a little bit for him. I think that's been the difference. I don't know. I am his shrink, so I will tell you that this is the case.
All right, we're going to need to wrap up pretty soon. But Casey, I can't let you go without asking you 2 things.
Okay. The lead up headphones, right?
I don't know. I don't know if you might be too young, but those 86 Mets, the late 80s Mets,
yep. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember them at all?
Oh, very well. Very well. Yeah.
Okay.
I was 9, 10, 11 during all that. Yeah.
Who was your favorite player on that team?
Lenny Dykstra, which doesn't sound as good now because he's had kind of a strange ride since then. But I love the way he played, and I love Doc and Strawberry and all of that. I used to, getting a chance to work with Steve Sachs and being friends with him over the years. I've messed with him about the fact that to please, anytime anyone sees Oral, thank him for ruining the dynasty. Who knows what would have changed if we actually could have gotten a hit off him in that series in '88. For those who don't remember, the Mets beat the Dodgers, I think it was 11 out of 12 times during the regular
11
season
out of 12
in 1988.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, are we serious? But I love those 80s teams because we all love to root for. It's like, in wrestling, the Stone Cold Steve Austin of like baseball teams was like the New York Mets. Who doesn't want to root for them? You see what I'm saying?
Was it a mistake for Strawberry to leave?
There was like a lot. Those guys could only be. There's like a Jim Brewer skit that he does. And I'll go quick, where he has like all the different drinks come in one by one into his stomach, and here comes tequila to ruin the party. Like there were too many people in the party for like that Met team where it was going to go south. I think either way. Yeah.
What was the over under on cigarettes for Keith Hernandez during a game?
I don't know, but they're over under a lot for me during everything now.
All right, and last one. Mike Piazza, should he have gone into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger or as a Met?
A lot of them are easy, and they're given like the wrong way. This one is very tough because he did a lot for the Dodgers, and I know this seems weird, but I will say this. In all the sports moments I've ever been to as a fan or covering, 9/20/101 is the greatest sport event I've ever been to. I went as a fan when he hit the first home run after 9/11. I know it sounds kind of bizarre because it's one moment, but I think what that moment was in baseball kind of stamped that he was going to be in Met lore in that place. And I know it kind of seems weird, but it was such a like my hair just stood up. Like what he represented during that time, I think that's why. But this is one of the ones where there actually are two stories. Some of them are like, really? Are you kidding me? Like we know there aren't enough Expos in there, but are you kidding?
Right.
Like this is kind of even, but I do think that what he was during all of that after 9/11 was part of why. Yeah.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Casey Stern, host of Unfiltered, which you can find on the Believe podcast.
You tell I'm shy? Like, I think the name is fine, right? Like, I feel
can
like
I just mention one thing?
You can mention anything you want. Sure. Yes. Go ahead.
1986, we were sitting in the outfield because they were the most affordable seats, and it was before it got really, really aggressive down there. My dad brings balls. We're watching batting practice. Ron Darling is down there. He threw me a ball and he signed
it. It's awesome. He's such a nice guy, by the way, too. Ronnie's great.
Yeah, but when he is a commentator, when he's talking about the Dodgers, not so friendly. I'm just saying. I mean, come on. Everyone's like that. Like, why aren't they talking about my team? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, everyone's like, I'm thinking just because everybody always on Joe Buck, but like whoever it is, it's like, they hate my team. They don't hate your team. Like, it's not like that. But I think when you grow up listening to Vin Scully, anyone else is not going to be good enough. Right.
Absolutely. Casey, we can't thank you enough for joining us. We got to do this again. There's so much more other stuff that I could get into with the Mets, but I know
no problem.
We're up against it. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Casey Stern. Casey, where can the people follow you, find you?
My address is you can find me at Casey Stern on Twitter, also a YouTube channel, which you can find through my Twitter, and Unfiltered, which will be out pretty much every week along through Believe, because, hey, it is fitting because the Mets used to say, you got to believe. They also used to have Catch the Fever, which is what you got when you came to the Mets in a trade, like Carlos Baerga, or signed like Roberto Alomar. I'm going to go back to therapy. I love you guys. It was fun. Anytime. Thanks
a lot, Casey. Appreciate it.
Good to have you. Thank you.
There you have it. Contrarian, survivor, reviewers of abuse as a Mets fan, and Mike Piazza, apologist. Casey Stern, thank you for stopping by. One funny thing that, you know how Casey pointed out Steve Cohen?
Yeah.
Steve Cohen just tweeted out Lindor got hurt by a door. Ironic. That's from Steve Cohen's Twitter feed. No Francisco Lindor. He literally smashed his hand in a door at the hotel.
There you go. Breaking news. Only on the Believe Those podcast.
Yeah, and from Steve Cohen. So thanks, Steve Cohen. One thing that he said, interestingly, and I agree with him, is I do think that this Dodgers iteration for the last few years is for sure the evil empire. That's how for sure they're looked at across, the board, from all the way from New York to wherever. Did any of that surprise any of you?
No, I mean, we've talked about it on the show. I mean, we are getting that Yankees treatment. I mean, we are doing baseball the way the Yankees used to do baseball, where they would sign all the free agents. I think the only difference, and I think something that doesn't get enough credit for the Dodgers, is that they use the farm system. I think the Dodgers use the farm system much differently than the Yankees did in their dynasty era. I mean, I get it. Jeter was homegrown, and so they had some players. But I do feel that a lot of the current Dodger players were either brought here because, not necessarily because of money, it was because they developed these players and scouting. I mean, how many times have we seen that famous tweet about the Dodgers acquire Chris Taylor from the Seattle Mariners? And, former Metropolitan himself, Justin Turner. The Dodgers took a chance on Justin Turner. The Mets gave up on him. So I think, yes, there is some truth to the fact that it's nice that the Dodgers have deep pockets and can spend all that money. But I don't think they get enough credit for their player development.
Surprisingly enough, people hate Justin Turner, right?
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's what we call a transition in the business. So because baseball is all about hate, our proud sponsor of the show, Bet Online, released I guess a graph or a list of the most hated players in Major League Baseball. I don't know if you got to see this, Alonso, but it does surprise me the number of Dodgers and which Dodgers are on that list. But for those of our listeners who haven't seen this list, number one on the list is Manny Machado of the show.
That's the one that surprised me, that he is the most hated guy. I don't understand that one.
I do. Number two, and I think he got dethroned because he was number one before that, was Jose Altuve of the Astros of Houston. The highest ranking Dodger on this list, and comes in at sixth. So he is the sixth most hated player in all of Major League Baseball, is Trevor Bauer. That to me was not a surprise. But to go further down this list and see guys like Freddie Freeman, to see guys like Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, Justin Turner, I mean, aside from Trevor Bauer, these are all character guys. I get, okay, the Freddie Freeman, I bet you, is a bunch of Atlanta Braves fans that are angry, and they should be angry at their own team because the Braves did Freddie dirty. Freddie did not want to leave Atlanta. So this hatred that Freddie gets, I think is unfair. But to see Justin Turner on this list, to see Mookie Betts on this list, that to me is a head scratcher. Well, Alicia, what do you think?
I agree with you 100%. I was so surprised. Well, first of all, I think all of the Astros on this list should be 1, 2, and 3. But moving on, Mookie Betts, Justin Turner, these guys are known as solid dudes that go into the community. They're not just exceptional baseball players. They're community guys. So I was surprised by the hate for them. Now, Alonso brought up, you weren't sure why Manny Machado, because Manny Machado gives off that swagger, that vibe of like he doesn't care, when we all know he cares so badly. And when he was a Dodger, he didn't hustle. Like he does things that can agitate the Twitterverse. And by the way, I should mention that this poll was conducted off negative tweets about the player. So these players got the most negative tweets. I still don't know what you're going to say about Justin Turner and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. I do agree about the Atlanta hate because in that part of the country, that's all they have is Atlanta baseball. So,
and the Falcons, it's 23-7 though, and he gets a little awkward from there.
Wow. Wow.
Awkward.
Well, you know what I find interesting, though, that you said, because it's based on negative tweets. They should update this list because I guarantee you next week, Walker Buehler will be on that list. Julio Urias will be on that list. And Craig Kimbrell will be on that list. I mean, look.
And from their own fans.
Where was Dave Roberts on that list?
It's players, guy. It's players.
Well, and can I say this? What bad thing can you say about Shohei Ohtani? He hits too many bombs. Like, what the hell is that? Like, I don't understand that.
Jealousy.
Yeah, and Max Muncy doesn't surprise me. I know a lot of dudes that don't like Brian Kilpatrick, friend of the show, friend of the Carne Asada, hates Max Muncy.
Well, he's not coming back.
There's dudes like that just I'm not surprised that they're on the list. But Shohei makes no sense as to why he's like even where he's at. Aaron Judge, don't get that one unless it's Yankee fans that are pissed that he didn't accept that offer. And then the one that's striking to me, there's two: Mike Trout and Ronald Acuna Jr.
Well, yeah, but don't you think a lot of this is just trolls?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, this is just, I get it. I mean, Twitter is just a horrible place, right? But it is unfortunate because we live in a society now where I feel a lot of people get their news from Twitter.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of need it because if you don't, the way news moves so quickly, you're going to miss out on information like Francisco Lindor, hurt his hand at a hotel door. So it's one of those necessary evils, but it's just the amount of vitriol that comes out. I'm just like, why do you guys even watch baseball? Why? I mean, if you guys hate it this much, I mean, Alicia has said this so many times. We should be thankful that we get to watch the Dodgers winning seasons. I don't remember what it feels like to be a part of a losing season. That's how good this organization has been. And let me tell you, when the Dodgers did suck, it sucked. And people would ask me, like, why do you still even watch the games? And it's like, because I like baseball. I love baseball. But for me to sit there and go, I don't even remember what it feels like to see the Dodgers suck. I mean, come on, guys. We need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
Well, and I mean that's a well-dated reference, sir. Well done, showing your age.
I'm hip, and shout out to Sports Empire. All those people that are hating, he thinks are Show Pods fans and the Giants of San Francisco fans. Sports Empire, thank you for that take.
I was surprised. Can I say that I'm shocked that there isn't a single Giant on here? I was shocked by that.
That's true. And you know what? I want to shout out David Fernandez. David said that he thinks that Baumgartner probably voted for Max Muncy. I think you're right, David.
He's probably like all 300 of those votes probably came from Mad Bum. And you know what? He still has to get the ball out of the ocean. That's where we're at. Also, why is Juan Soto so high on this list? Like, what did he do to you guys, DC? Like, aside from doesn't again want to sign an extension? Hey, the dude is still balling. Like, I don't get it.
You want to see if I can pull that list up?
Which one?
The one you're talking about on screen.
Yeah. So that people know what we're
live
talking
show.
about.
So let's see what happens here.
Here we go, lady. We're going to show you our production value right now.
Our production value of 0 is about to be on full showcase.
Yeah, we spare no expense here.
No.
Well,
but I mean,
Correa is number 5. So
5. No, and to your point, Alicia, I think the likes of Altuve, Bregman, Verlander, who's on this list as well. I think Garrett Cole should be higher on the list. That's just me. Dudes like that, I don't get what Jacob deGrom, what did he do to you guys aside from get hurt all the time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and to Casey Stern's point, years of abuse. I mean, that's what the Mets, I mean, you know this, Juan, you're a Raider fan. Years of abuse that just mounts up. And
you can't hurt me, man. You can't hurt me. I'm a Raiders fan.
No.
Dun, 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 dun.
Raiders. Just like you can't hurt.
It's a negative on the file. I couldn't download it.
Well, if you can go to Bet Online's Twitter. It's on the Twitter feed. Bet Online. Huge thanks to them for presenting this episode of the podcast. As we start to wrap up and as we look ahead to the series, you got Catman, who is deciding if he is a cat or a man, facing Taijuan Walker tonight at the Los Angeles Ravine of Dodgers Stadium.
That was wonderful.
It was terrible. I was trying to get through these two screens and everything froze. So that was
at
great.
this point. I just want to welcome Inglés Sin Barreras as a sponsor for the show.
Yes.
So
we should, because as a bilingual person, English is hard. Okay, Juan?
That's true. Absolutely. You're right.
Cody Bellinger back in the lineup. That's good. I mean, granted, he had that hamstring situation, I believe, or hamstring tightness, I think is what it was. But good to see him back in the lineup. And then again, I mean, you got your murderers row: Mookie, Freddie, Trey, Will, Edwin, Justin, Cody, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux, with Tony Gonsolin going. It looks like it's business as usual. Kevin Pillar's hurt. Max Muncy's doing a rehab assignment this weekend, apparently. So if you're in Oklahoma City or wherever they're playing, go find them. You know who broke that, Roger? Dave Essay.
Good job.
Shout out to Dave
I just tweeted out that image just in case anybody wants to see it.
Yeah, well, check it out on Twitter at Dodgers Beat. What were you going to say, Juan?
Well, we also have Clayton Kershaw doing a rehab assignment this Sunday.
This Sunday.
And then, do we have any updates? I know I had heard that possibly Andrew Heaney would be doing a rehab. Has anything been announced on Andrew Heaney yet?
I didn't see anything, but I did hear it could be this weekend. Yeah, it could be this weekend. Apparently, is what speculation is leading to. But you know what? I mean, if they're having rehab starts, that's good. Like they're on the back. And, I know I heard Kirsch the other day talking about how this one, it's taken a little longer. Is kind of what he said. But it's not necessarily worse per se. Is kind of how he kind of laid it out. Which I'll take that as a positive because, as you guys know, I feel like he has an annual injury, and this may be the one. So hopefully, fingers crossed that everything goes well at the rehab assignment or rehab start, wherever it is. And same with Andrew Heaney, because Andrew Heaney was dealing.
No, absolutely. I mean, hopefully he comes back and regains that form. So just to give a quick recap, nobody won last week because we did not anticipate the Pirates sweeping the Dodgers. So no points will be handed out. Just give you a quick update on the standings.
We might have to take some points away after last week.
Let me give you a quick update on the standings before we go into next week's picks. So Alonso has 3 points, and I have 3 points. So we're tied for first. And then Alicia has 2 points, and Roger has 2 points. So it's still very, very close.
And they also have an important series coming up with the Giants of San Francisco, which I am stoked about. How deep are we going for our predictions this week?
So we're going to just do the 7 games, the 4 against the Metropolitans and the 3 against the White Sox.
Go ahead, Juan, with yours, since no one won.
Okay, I think since this is dark times, I'm going to acknowledge that these are dark times. I think they lose 3 out of 4 to the Metropolitans. And I think they lose 2 out of 3 to the Southsiders, Chicago White Sox.
Just call it a season, Juan. Just call it a season.
Wow. Hey, look, Twitter told me that the Dodgers season ended on June 1st, so what do I got to lose?
He makes a compelling argument.
I think the Dodgers go 2-5 in the next 7 games.
I think they go 5-2.
I'm gonna go 4-3.
Roger,
just because they're gonna snap out of it.
So I'm thinking they'll split with the Mets and 2 out of 3 with the White Sox. So for same.
They'll win 2 out of 3?
Yeah. So same.
So 5-2?
4-3.
Oh,
yeah, 4-3.
4-3. All right. So 5-2 me. 4 Sports Empire said 1-5.
Then Sports Empire.
Just the sky is falling, Juan. It is dark times.
I'm telling you, it is dark times. I'm glad that Princess Del Valle is hopeful, but until I see it, I think this is just one of those funks. And we talked about it on the show. Dude, playing 31 games in 30 days,
rough.
Yeah.
That is going to take your toll on you. I think, the fact, and I don't know how soon. I mean, I think a lot of it is also bad luck because Urias doesn't get enough run support. He went from last year from being the pitcher with the best run support to losing a game in DC 1-0. The home run ball seems to be an issue for both Buehler and Urias. So until I start seeing a little more consistency from them, and I think Babyface has a good point. The fact that the Catman and Tyler Anderson are our best pitchers right now is a little concerning to me because I don't know if that's what those guys are. I don't know if Catman is going to give you an ERA of under 2 for the whole season. Tyler Anderson, give the guy credit. He's only really had 1 bad start the whole season. I'm encouraged by the fact that Heaney and Kershaw seem to be on their way, but they're not here yet. So until they get here, for right now, I think this is going to be one of those stretches. We saw it last year when they lost 15 out of 20. The good thing is they're in first place. I want to remind everybody they're in first place. They have a 3-game lead. The Showpads seem to be in a funk too. They just got swept by the Cardinals of St. Louis. So no pasa nada. It's okay. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. It's gonna be rough, but we're gonna
Everybody
get
just
through
breathe. Just breathe.
I would be worried if they weren't in first place. They're still in first place, and according to Twitter, they suck. So if they suck and if they're in first place right now, I'm cool with it because again, it's also June 2nd. So talk to me in July, like after the All-Star break. If they still suck, cool. And Sports Empire makes a great point. They're still adjusting as a team. So at the end of the day, I'm not overly worried about it. I mean, for some people, I know the sky's falling. And then where I feel that Walker Buehler is going to have a redemption is in this next start on Saturday against David Peterson. So for me, I'm not overly worried about it. I mean, you got Tyler Anderson going, Tony Gonsolin going, Julio Diaz going, Walker Buehler going. If all those dudes can have quality starts, I'm cool with it. That's all that. Before we end it and send you guys on over to our friends at Sportsnet LA for the broadcast, want to let you know that this episode of this podcast, this live, whatever you want to refer to it, was presented by our friends at BetOnline. They continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs. Go to their site. It's right here on the ticker thing, betonline.ag. If you go to that site, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to get that bonus and get into the action. Bet online where the game starts. Huge shout out to Casey Stern for joining us, and hopefully he is not impending doom. I feel like is what's coming over Casey Stern based on the conversation that was just had.
And I just want to remind people, his team's in first place too.
Yes, but let's again, years of abuse. Years of abuse will culture you a certain way. So I understand his point. Huge thanks to him for stopping by. And then let's see how these predictions go. For all you guys that are following us, listening to us, all that jazz, chime in on your predictions for the week as well. We'll interact. We'll do all the good stuff. And who knows, maybe if we get enough people to involve, maybe we'll give some stuff away to whoever has the best score. We'll see. But on that note, it's your boys Alonso Juan, Babyface Gimmick in the Sky Roger, the Princess of Hopefulness, Alicia Del Valle, also with us here on the Bleed Los podcast. Turn on right now to Sportsnet LA, hear the homies, and we'll go from there. On that note, have a good one, and go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.
Years of abuse.